and welcome to episode 33 of the Grove podcast. It's quite fitting that we're on episode 33 because 3 points is what we got on Saturday, finally against Aston Villa, may I add. However, Martin Odegaard's barren run 3 seasons in a row at Villa Park still comes to haunt him on the same side of the pitch as well, incidentally enough. I'm sure we'll talk about that today with our hosts, Tabs, as usual. How are you today?
Yes, very good. Very buoyant, jubilant. Yeah, get the fuck in. Up yours, Villa. Thank you.
Up yours, Villa, and up yours, Emmy Martinez as well.
Oh yes, even more.
Specifically,
Yeah,
Emmy Martinez.
I highlighted something particular about him in the show notes.
Good. I see that right now. Yeah, didn't know you were going to see him on Tuesday, Tabs. To be honest,
Didn't do.
and we're also joined a very warm welcome back for this season to Jamie. How are you, bro?
Superb, thank you. A little bit sunburned, but yeah, the weekend has been just fantastic.
Just fantastic, he says, as I look outside and it is chucking it down with rain. The sky's as dark as it can be. The car's getting a wash at least, so there's every cloud has a silver lining, as they say. So we're going to go straight into it. Obviously, we're 2-0 winners against Aston Villa, even though Tabs has written Wolves at the top of the notes that he very kindly prepares for us. I'll let you off for that, Tabs. But yeah, 2-0 winners versus Aston Villa. We didn't make it easy for ourselves, but we'll start with the highlight and low light. And Jamie, as honorary welcome back guest, you can go first. What was your highlight and low light?
Possibly a slightly obscure highlight, but immediately before Thomas Partey sweeps the ball home for the second goal, it was when watching that goal back for about the fourth or fifth time that I just really appreciated the number of players with their hands up looking for the ball, hungry to try and get that ball in at the time. I think we had about 5 players in the area, which was just fantastic to see. It's a small thing, but I think if you compare to the way that we started the season last year and how slow we were at times, and how we didn't necessarily look like we were threatening attacking wise at times, that was a bit of a contrast for me. And it's kind of been there for a long time now, but there's just something about that moment if you watch it back and you look at how many players want to get involved and want to be on the end of that and put away the killer goal. So that's my highlight. Low light, can you really have one after that? Maybe I think it's got to be Gabriel getting robbed, doesn't it? Unfortunately. And I mean, saying that, very close to a highlight what happened 3 seconds later, to be fair. So, yeah, Gabriel getting robbed. I think it was by Morgan Rogers. Is that it?
Yeah.
No, it was a Bailey, wasn't it?
Oh, sorry.
Bailey and then Bailey to
Bailey
Rogers.
robbed it, and then it landed to Rogers.
That's right. I mean, that felt at the time. I mean, I've not felt that kind of panic since, for about 3 months since we were playing football again in the Premier League. In fairness, so that was pretty horrendous. But yeah, overall, absolutely brilliant, and it's nice to have the low light having happened so early on in the game and just be able to get on with it and enjoy so much of the game after that.
Yeah, okay. I'll go next, Tabs. I'm going to steal yours, I'm afraid.
No. I wanted to make sure that this was the highlight of the game. So, because I've got a couple, but I just did not want this one to go without being said. And this is I think this is one of my top 5 favorite moments in football of all time. But anyway, go Moz. Over to you.
So my highlight of the game was Ben White fucking the ball against we must add, super John McGinn, who didn't probably feel very super afterwards. It was the passage of play down the kind of the other side of the pitch, where Saliba, is kind of on the floor, and John McGinn hits it up against Saliba, and Ben White. Ben White's got no right to be at that side of the park. He's got no right, but like a magician, he just appears out of nowhere just to be the shithouse that he is, and he absolutely thunders the ball into John McGinn's midriff. And so powerfully, might I add, that I've watched this on repeat many times today, and John McGinn falls over. So he's a wee guy, John McGinn, but Ben White, the aim, the form, everything was just superb. Chef's kiss, as they say now, as the kids say. That was my highlight. My low light of the game was it seemed like Villa were Arsenal last year. The amount of chances they had, this could have been a very different game, and we need to be very careful because yes, we have Brighton at home next week, and then then we play Spurs and City away. Those chances against teams like Spurs, oh, sorry, I shouldn't say that. That makes them sound good. Those chances against teams like Man City will be scored, and we need to be very careful that this doesn't become something that we make a habit of. We need to get these out of the way early on, and it's kind of good that it happened and we still won because players learn from these types of mistakes. Gabriel won't make the same mistake, hopefully, this season, dilly dallying on the ball. And there was a tweet that was on seen a tweet on X that is it still called tweets if it's now called X? Probably a post on X
That
that
post, yeah.
someone said right at that moment Gabriel locked eyes with Ricardo Calafiori on the bench and shat himself and thought, right, there's my arch nemesis, and he just froze. But I hope hopefully not. So that was kind of my low light. That it could have been a much different game if Villa had taken their chances. Um, we will get to it, but David fucking Raya, wow, he saved our bacon. It was just insane. So yeah, that was mine. Tabs, over to you.
So I'll kick off with, well, on the Benny Blanco thing. I think I've watched that more than the goals or anything else. I've just seen it on repeat. And thank God John McGinn's fat ass was in the way, because I fear for the crowd that were behind him, because I don't think Ben White has hit a sweeter ball in his life. He struck it so beautifully. My low light, I don't know if it's going to be a perennial thing this season. It was just when Martinez flopped on the floor from a corner, completely unchallenged, completely untouched. I mean, Havertz then hit the crossbar, and the referee gives a free kick. And for what? There was absolutely nothing. Now, this directive, the new Ben White rule, whatever they want to call it. Now like defenders will flop down. It happened. What was it, the Brentford game, and Eze's brilliant free kick was cancelled out because of it, and this they're just going to take it, and it's just absolutely nonsense, and it's got to work both ways, but there was no foul there, and he just falls over, and I watched it again, nothing. So I, I just hope I can just see one time if that had gone in, if Havertz had gone in, had scored, and that had not been given, it would have been ridiculous. So that was my low light, and I feel this is going to crop up again and again. Um, a bit like Trossard in his goals, but my highlight was, I think it was after the party goal, was when the Arsenal fans were serenading Martinez, and they were singing the Martinez song, and Martinez looked over, and yeah, it was like, that was glorious. Just the fact that we were serenading, just taking the piss out of him, and he truly deserves it. So that was my second highlight, because there was only one highlight, but that was my second highlight of the game. It was just it did make me chuckle. That so yes, that was yes, we owed them, and we certainly delivered.
We certainly did. I mean, the lineup was interesting. One thing I would say, Tabs, I don't agree with your part in the notes you wrote that Timber at left back played very Zinchenko like and he inverted, but I don't agree with the next sentence. Zinni is best at playing the Zinni role. I think Timber did an okay job. I think you guys all know my disdain for Alexander Zinchenko at the moment, and I just don't feel like he is the answer anymore. I feel like we've evolved from that. I think we're now a step above that, just like we are with Gabriel Jesus as well, I guess, for his injury woes. But I think Timber had a really assured performance. I think, you have wrote as well, it's his first start in a year. Let's not forget he last started in the Premier League on the first game of the season last year. So it's been a while, and it was quite good to see him because it felt like you couldn't tell that was a new player, right? If you watched that game, you couldn't tell that was a player making his inadvertent commas, let's say, debut, right? He just felt like he was part of the squad, another player. And the only thing I would say about Timber is, and Gary Neville mentioned it on the commentary, I think it was kind of towards the second half when we were looking for a goal. He had said something along the lines of, "Don't," and this is not accurate word for word, but he was talking about Arsenal just holding off, sitting back from Villa, waiting for them to come to us, and then for us to find the pass into midfield and then into attack. and he was saying Timber should be the person that gets the ball and drives at them and forces them to retreat essentially. So it was really interesting. Gary Neville picked up on that because I was also thinking the same. I thought Timber's brilliant on the ball, almost like Calafiori, where he can just pick up the ball and run at the defence. We never really done that. We were passing side to side, and it was almost similar to what it was like last season. And fans were obviously quite frustrated, I guess, in some performances where we did that. But I wonder if that's the new Arteta way of playing. Let's not force it. The time will come, and obviously the time did come in this game, and we managed to win. But it was interesting. I don't know what you guys make of that, Tabs.
No, and in what I meant is in terms of Zinni's best at playing the Zinni role. When Zinchenko does it well, he's brilliant at that role, at picking up the ball, finding spaces, finding a pass, and all that. So he does it better than Timber at the moment. And it was just it wasn't, it was more say, but I did know he was inverting a lot. He was even doing what Zinchenko does sometimes. It was ending up on the right side of the opposition penalty area. And it wasn't really a criticism. It was just sort of, I was surprised. It was more, I was surprised to see so much of that. I was expecting us to be a bit more wider and a bit more direct down the left channel rather than him just basically doing a like for like role. And at this stage, he's not as good as Zinchenko at doing that. But as I said, in context, it's his first game doing it. I did feel like it looked like his first game. Yes, he fitted in, and it wasn't massively an issue. And this isn't an issue. These are good problems to have. I said he was solid. He's got a presence, which again doesn't have. So it was just more of a commentary. It was just more interesting that he was playing such a similar role, and I didn't quite expect that sort of thing. And I think you're right. I think it is a deliberate. I think it looked like, especially the first half, when Villa was doing a mid block and their pressing was really good. I was saying, oh, we need to be passing it faster, sharper, and all the rest of it. But maybe it was, you're right, deliberate, that we were trying to be a bit slower, trying to be a bit deliberate for a sort of thing. Whether that was a deliberate choice or not, without being on the inner circle, you don't know. But it did feel some of it was very un-Arsenal like. So maybe it was just the way he was going to tackle this game, was maybe not try to be so direct and be a bit more pensive and a bit more deliberate and slow things down, especially in the first half. I think second half, once Villa's substitutions came in, they dropped back and we then had more space and stuff. But Villa did such a good job of closing down the passing lanes in the channel. Odegaard had nowhere to go. He was always coming deep, but those passing channels in the lanes, it really, really blocked off. So Villa did a number on us, and so I think we had to sort of again find another way of doing things. But fortunately, the subs for Villa actually had a negative effect from their defensive makeup in the mid block, and they got deeper, and then that's when we started to be a bit more progressive and find more space.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Good way of putting it, actually. And Jamie, I have a question for you. Will Thomas Partey still start if Arsenal sign Marino? Should I say when Arsenal sign Marino? Because it looks like, right now, sorry, I know I said I've got a question for you, but let me just give you a little prelude to this. Right now, we don't have Marino, okay, even though the Orne Bomba has dropped and it looks like it's happening. But I feel like our midfield looks really, really weak because we've just kind of got Jorginho and Partey that can play in that kind of position along with Rice and Odegaard. Do you think Partey will continue to start once Marino, if he comes in, or do you think this is just a kind of stopgap? And also, a second point to that question is, how did you feel about Thomas Partey's performance?
First thing is, I think he will still get some game time. We've got a huge number of games to play, and similarly to how we saw at the end of last season with the rotation of Jorginho and Partey, at certain times, I think he will still get some game time for sure. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Marino being an 8 and what that means for Declan Rice, whether this means he's now a confirmed 6 or whether we see Marino has to play a slightly more deep role instead, or who knows what Mikel thinks of that. The other thing I would add as well is that I think whilst we perhaps don't have, we might only have those kind of 4 natural midfielders at the moment, I think potentially as well you've got to include Calafiori and Timber. So Timber actually has played a lot of defensive midfield in his career. actually, funnily enough, has played very little left back, which is something that should be pointed out with his performances at the moment. He arrived to us as a right back and centre half who'd played some defensive midfield. So he's also an option as well. But certainly Calafiori as well, I think, is someone that's been pointed out by quite a few kind of Twitter tacticians and so on, as well as somebody who's got the potential to play there as well. So yeah, we maybe are a little weak in pure numbers, but I think the kind of flexibility around some of the players in the squad, I wouldn't be majorly panicked at 6 if we had an injury or two. I think we could still make things work. As for Partey's performance, it was good, capped by a goal. To be honest, it didn't really stand out that much for me throughout the game. I think the midfield in general didn't stand out during the Villa game for exactly the reasons that Tabs points out. Really, the distances between Villa's lines were fantastic. They squeezed us. Most of our good work happened out wide, and even then, we had to be very, very patient with it. So it didn't stand out to me as a game as something particularly comment-worthy, apart from the brilliant bit about the goal, which was the humiliation of Emi Martinez. Ultimately, I don't care how Thomas Partey struck it. In fact, to be honest, the fact that he struck it somewhat tamely, in my opinion, was actually all the better for it. So, yeah, it was a fine game, but it's not something to massively write home about. There will be other games where Thomas Partey will stand out more, I think, and those games, I think he stands out more in those games actually where he's asked to play in a transitional role more. It's where he's able to turn and play those sweeping passes very quickly because there is space between the lines, and that wasn't this game. So for that reason, he just doesn't stand out as much as I know that he will do in other games for us.
Very well put. It's funny how you say the humiliation of Emi Martinez. It sounds like an Oscar-winning film. That Best Picture.
I think it's a two-parter, isn't it? Because there was one back in 22-23 and now 24-25. The own goal.
I heard the sequel.
Hit in the groin with football all over again.
There you go. It's a trilogy, then, isn't it?
Yeah, because I heard the final parts when we play them again at the Emirates.
Oh.
So fair point. I think just on Thomas Partey, I think his performance was okay. There was a few messages in the group chat in the Grove right before he scored. It was funny. I think it was it Normie maybe, or someone had put in saying Thomas Partey's just playing awful, and then suddenly he scored. I don't even think Thomas Partey realised that Thomas Partey scored, because he just waited until the ball hit the back of the net, and then he kind of jumped and away to celebrate. Just on Emi Martinez, before I talk about a very pressing matter, is he did make a very, very good save from Bukayo Saka, and I actually jumped off the sofa thinking it was a goal. It was a very good save. He got down very quick and he got a decent hand to it. That was the only good thing he did all game, to be fair. So I'm not giving him credit for it. I'm just saying, yes, he's a see you next Tuesday, but he's also still a pretty decent keeper, just not good enough for Arsenal as the Arsenal fans.
Self-proclaimed world number one, I think. But there you go. At least he's confident. On the Partey thing, yeah, I think still a bit leggy, still a bit rusty, but he's taking shots, and I think that's something. Again, I just want to point out he's taking shots, and that was a very typical Partey goal. Lay it out, and he comes in, and you've seen it against Spurs a couple of years back, and he's done that shot a few times, and a few times this season. So if you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the lottery, sort of thing. So yeah, I'm quite happy the fact that we're taking shots from outside the box, because it's an area that definitely that we need to improve upon.
Yep. Okay. Now to a very serious, important, pressing matter. I'm going to play a voice clip, so just bear with me, guys, and have a listen to this. It's from our Grove's very own Andrew, so shout out to Andrew. He sent this, for context, on the 1st of March 2024, so this was right before the Sheffield United game. Have a listen, and then we'll come back and discuss.
Good afternoon, gentlemen and gentle ladies. Loving the podcast so far. There's some good analysis in there. There's some certainly questionable analysis in there. But one thing I have picked up on in comparison to other podcasts, football or not, is the energy that you guys bring. I don't know, just kind of, you can tell that you guys are chatting and friends off screen or off mic. And I think that certainly transmits during the podcast. So keep up the good work. looking forward to continuing to listen. Potentially a wee bit nervous about the reaction I'm going to get to this. And I guess where else to start but then to just throw it out there. Is Gabriel Martinelli good enough for us? It's something that's been rumbling in the back of my head for about 2 years now. And I've never said it. And I almost want to say it now before, I don't know, before the Sheffield United game. And he goes and scores potentially 2 or 3 goals because they are like a sieve at the back. And then off the back of that, I would maybe be even more nervous to say it. But I think he is a really fantastic player. He offers a lot. But is that encapsulated within the rise that we've had? Are we seeing him as this fantastic player, like, that's taken us from 8th to 5th, from 5th to challenging for the league? And we're forecasting that is going to take us to the next level. I almost kind of lump it in with the Gabriel Jesus question. Is he the player that's going to take us to the top of the Premier League? Is he going to get his 15, 16, 17 goals, potentially 7, 8, 9, 10 assists a season? And I'm hoping that you guys can throw this opinion about a bit and maybe hopefully prove me wrong. And he himself can prove me wrong. Because if he does, then we're certainly onto a good thing. But anyway, like I said, keep up the good work. Pleasure. Bye.
Okay, so you heard that voice note. I'm going to just ask you straight away, guys. Is Martinelli's time at Arsenal Football Club coming to a slow but steady end? I'll go first, in fact, shall I? Because I'm always the negative one. And I'm always the one that thinks if a player does badly, he needs to be shown the door. After one game. No, I'm kidding. But what I will say, right, on Gabriel Martinelli is he is a very good footballer. However, just like with Zinchenko and just like with Gabriel Jesus, it's an Arsenal team that are evolving and evolving very, very fast. There are players that will be left behind, and there will be players that continue to shine. Just look at, for example, I guess you can look at other teams. I was going to use Chelsea as an example, but they've got so many players that it's almost like a revolving door of one in, one out. And I think half the players Chelsea have, I think Todd Bowley's still trying to sign them again because he sees them play on a Saturday and thinks they look pretty decent. But what I will say is Martinelli is, like I mentioned, a fine player. However, I think there's now someone else that can do his job a little bit better and make that impact. And I felt so sorry for him when Trossard scored right after coming on, because that Trossard goal wasn't special. It wasn't spectacular, 30 yard out. It was just one of those goals where he was in the right place at the right time. The ball kind of just came along to him. He was running onto it. That could have been Martinelli. And let's not forget, it was Martinelli against Man City at home last season when Tomiyasu laid it off to him and it hit Nathan Ake in the face and went into the back of the net. If that goal on Saturday just there against Villa was Martinelli, no one would be saying anything about it. But Andrew makes a very, very good point that, is it now getting to the point where his time is limited? I do think, though, however, and this is another message I got in from someone who listened to the podcast, he just said, whichever one starts is like a double act 1-2 punch. Imagine being a right back, you've dealt with one of them for 60 minutes, and then we bring in the other when you're tired. I feel like whether you start Martinelli or Trossard, we get a boost when the sun is made. I know Trossard's recently been to the fore with the important goals, but it's not as simple as saying Trossard over Martinelli. It's more about the impact that either can bring in tight games. If you play either against bottom half teams, we probably get joy, but in tight games like the one against Villa, the impact sub was the key to us winning the game. So that's how I feel. I read that message and I felt, yeah, perfect. I do think, though, that yesterday's game potentially signals to Mikel Arteta, especially after his post-match comments with the media. It seems like it will be Trossard going forward, reading between the lines, but who knows? It could be Trossard for 6 games on the bounce, and then he doesn't score. Martinelli comes on as a sub and scores a winner against, I don't know, Man U or Liverpool or whatever. So that's my take on it. Tabs, what's yours? And bear in mind, Tabs, that people have to go to work and bed, and we do. And I
All
know
right.
you've got 2 pages of notes.
No, let me check. Okay, look. Yeah, okay. At the moment, I think he's suffering a period of a bit of lacking in confidence, and his decision making isn't as good as it used to be, and his finishing and end product isn't there. So I'm not going to hear and sugarcoat that. I got eyes, and I'm not going to bullshit people because I'm not going to pretend. However, lots of players go through this and go through periods, and we're not going past him, and there's a couple of reasons for that. He offers us one thing. He offers us something that we don't have elsewhere in the team. He's just got that raw pace and that ability to run at defenders, either to chase onto the balls or with the ball, and he's got that, and that's something that we do lack. I think the main thing, if I'm going to pick out one thing from the notes, is that I think he suffers from a couple of things. One, Saka is doing brilliantly, and then they sort of arose at the same time, and they were on the par. And it was, actually, is Nelly's ceiling higher than Saka, and Saka's just gone through the roof. So that's his development arc, and Saka's going there. And a lot of players develop at different rates, and sometimes they do brilliantly, and then they plateau and even go backwards before then they go to the next level. So he's also being compared there, but also that if you see where he plays on the left hand side compared to the right, again, right hand side you've got Saka, White, and Odegaard. Bang, 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 bang. They know each other. They play beautifully together. On the left, it's very much more unstructured. It's inconsistent. It's not the same. You had Zinchenko and Xhaka there. Now Xhaka's gone. You've got Rice there now, and then Zinchenko was playing poorly, and it's a different sort of role. So I think maybe Marino coming in might actually help him. So I think he's and also in the comparison that Trossard scoring goals, great. So I don't think we're going past. I think it's just an element of the fact that the left hand side is very different. He's often isolated. It's just a very different role, and it's a harder one, and he's not so involved. I think he could do better. I think he could come inside more. He could try and play more centre forward. A few things he could do better, but we're not going past him for sure. He is a great player to have in the team. And imagine, as the guy said, Trossard starts, Nelly comes on 20 minutes. Oh shit! And we don't have many players on the bench that are when we ramp up. Say, oh Trossard, you said, or he starts and then Trossard comes on, and you've knackered one player out. So we're not going past him. He's just going through a bit of a slump. And if our left hand side improves, we've got more solidity. So with Calafiori, with Timber, with Merino, I think we might get a better left hand side, and then he will come to it. And what's happening at the moment can be coached improvement. So I'm not denying that he's going for a slump. I think we're trying to get confidence in him, and that's why he's trying to play him. But he's part of a team that scored 91 goals last season, that went on that run. We've won our first 2 games of the season, and he started both games. I'm not down and out on him for no way at all.
Jamie?
I mean, it's kind of annoying going after Tabs because he's just spoken all the sense, hasn't he?
Sorry.
So, I mean,
Does he?
it's been fairly reasonable there. I was talking about this a lot at the end of last season. I've not been massively convinced by Gabby for some time. I think you're right about the right hand bias probably taking some of his thunder, but that doesn't really then explain how Leo looked so impressive for the last 4 or 5 months of last season, where Martinelli didn't to me. And to me, Leo took his place last year. I was surprised to see Martinelli in the team on day one, and actually kind of wonder whether him and Zinchenko in that team on day one was really just to start giving them minutes in a bit of a dead rubber of a game, perhaps against Wolves, where we expected to go out quite strongly. But anyway, the for me, yeah, it's Leo's shirt. It has been Leo's shirt since probably February, March. The other part of the question, though, is it time for Martinelli to go in some way? No, not unless we sign somebody. It's about as simple as that. You need to go out and get somebody who's going to be your starting absolute star left winger. And I do think it's something that's available as a team upgrade. I think I've been talking about it as a team upgrade since the end of last season, and I really do think that it is somewhere that we could push on and make a big signing that's quite transformative in the way that we've seen with your Declan Rice and even when Saliba came into the team, etc. One of those transformative players could be a left winger. I really do believe that. But until you get that player, Gabriel Martinelli is a hell of a player to have in the squad. He has been brilliant for us. And I think the other bit that probably needs to be said is just that quite often our game nowadays probably doesn't suit Gabriel Martinelli as much as it used to. When he first came into the team and really burst into the team, we were not controlling much of the ball whatsoever. And there was a lot more space there for him. There were a lot more transitional elements to our game where he was able to play really direct and exploit the space that was in front of him and attack single fullbacks. He doesn't have that opportunity a great deal now because we're in control of the ball so often. And when we're in control of the ball moves out to the right for us to go through those patterns of play with Oda and Saka and White that allow us to break down a lot of teams. So he is just this kind of agent of chaos without necessarily having a key role in the game plan. As I say, I still think Trossard does that role better because I think Trossard works better in those kind of spaces and environments. And obviously he's been a 10 at lots of times in his career, Trossard, so he has a bit more, I think, kind of ball at his feet creativity rather than necessarily having to run at players at all times. But I think he's a great option to have. And I think especially when I think of kind of Champions League games and I think about the likes of what Bayern did to us on the transition last year when we were in control of the game at the Emirates, it feels pretty good to have a guy with that kind of pace, that directness and that danger for those games where we're going to need him. So it's a great option. But long term, yeah, I'm not convinced. I think he needs to do a lot of maturing as a player to make himself, Arsenal's number 11 again, effectively. So it's going to be a bit of a journey for him to do so. And if I was going to hedge my bets, I'm probably going to go with the incumbent until the time at which we upgrade. And that's the way that I kind of see it.
He's only 23. He's just turned 23. So he's still, I would say, still developing. He's not his prime just yet. So I think there's plenty of chance for him to be coached and to improve.
He's 23 until he's 24, and
he's literally just turned 23. I think it was only last couple of days or the last month or so.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can still expect some progress, but I do think it is right. I don't think I've seen him have a really impressive game in about 6 months, and that's my bit of a concern for Martinelli. I don't think I've had him have one of those games like the Leeds game a couple of years back when he terrorised Leeds for 90 minutes, or West Ham, he had a game as well where he absolutely terrorised them. Chelsea, he had a game where he terrorised them. I haven't seen him really have his opposite number on toast in the way that we've seen Bukayo Saka and Leo Costa do on a number.
I'm assuming Sheffield United away doesn't count then.
I'm not counting Sheffield United. No, sorry.
Okay, all right.
Sorry, mate. I'm not counting. Neither are we having the Hertfordshire League side of sides either.
I was baiting for that one, so that's fine. But anyway, no. There is no right answer here, but it's you could go back and forth for quite easily on this. So it's good.
Okay, good. I'm just looking at Martinelli's last kind of few games and ratings. Obviously scored the winner against United in pre-season, but against Wolves 7.7, played 90 minutes. Leon 7.2, played 80 minutes. I'm not counting internationals, but Everton last game of the season played 90, 7.7.
It was actually really good. He played right side, and that was this was one interesting. So I did a bit of rewatching and stuff like that, and he actually played the full 90 instead of Saka on the right hand side, and actually what he offered there was actually really interesting. The chances that he made and created was being a direct winger down the right, crossing it in with his right. He actually played a pretty good game. And actually, considering the circumstances, okay, it was only Everton, but it was 1-1 till like the 89th minute, and we were struggling in patches. And actually, he was one of the brighter spots. I think what's lacking it's just that end product. I think the last time he assisted in something, okay, the Sheffield United game, and then again he did a brilliant assist for the first goal against Newcastle, where he ran left to right and then squared it back. So it's there. If he scored a couple of chances, he scored those two against Palace. He's had chances, and something's just not there with him. He's not firing. He scored 2 or 3 of those goals or set something up, I think it would be a different story. But yeah, I think Jamie said Trossard has just come in, being clinical, no fuss, and fine, good. You have the shirt, and I'm going to win it back from you. But it's just how he does it.
Martinelli in the Premier League last season, 35 matches, started 24, played just over 2,000 minutes, 6 goals, 4 assists, with an average rating of 7.09. So it's not as if he's the worst player on the park. However, when you look individually at games, he doesn't really get many games where he can play 90 minutes. The last season, towards the end of last season, apart from, let's just not include Sheffield United, obviously, which was
because it does.
fine,
Did those were they not 3 points
a
and the
goal and
goal
an
didn't
assist.
count?
But Man City played 12 minutes, Luton 15, Brighton 26, Villa 23,
Remember,
Wolves
he was coming
18.
back from injury. He'd been out for like 3
Yeah,
months, something like
but
that. So
this is what I'm saying. So he didn't get a run until the
no,
last game of the season where he could potentially impact on the team. So anyway, let's move on. So Andrew, I hope that satisfies your curiosity, and everyone probably hates you now because you're hating on Gabriel Martinelli. So it might
it
be
was
wise.
his question was a very it was a very sensible question. It was like, it was just like, it needs to be asked.
Yeah.
Then. In fact, it wasn't hating on. He said, "Have we gone past him? Yes or no?" I was quite pleased with it actually. So yeah,
Okay. Just
you're,
in terms of
you're shit stirring, Moss. That's what you are.
no, not at all. I'm just playing a voice note that I was sent by Andrew on the 1st of March, and I refused to play it until he asked me again in the group chat. So, just before we talk about the goals, I just want to go through some stats. So, Arsenal in the Premier League in 2024 played 10, won 9, drawn 1, lost 0, have scored 30 and conceded 8. We've had 8 clean sheets as well. So, that's very, very good. We've won 18 of the last 20 Premier League games, which is very impressive form for a team who are going for the title, less shall we say. And we've also gone, thanks Tabs for these are really good stats. We've also gone 10 successive away Premier League games without going behind. The last time was Fulham in December 2023. Can you guys remember the game before that we went behind but still managed to win in the
Away,
Premier League?
away.
Oh, that wasn't Villa away the season before, was it?
Yeah, when we 4-2.
Yeah.
No, because this is last season. No, this is December. So was it earlier on in the year? I can't remember. I
Well,
can't.
there's a question. If you know the answer, put it in the comments box. If you're listening on Spotify, put it in the box in the comments. I think that I'm gonna I'm gonna guess that
Oh, I
either
thought you knew the answer. Yeah.
I'm going to guess that either Fraser Thompson or um, Sasha will know the answer. That's the two people who I think.
Because there was the 2-2. We were 2-0 down to Chelsea, but we didn't win. So we went down 2-0 to Chelsea and drew 2-2 with Rice and Trossard. But if you're talking about went down and then won, don't know.
Well, Fraser, this and Sasha, the onus is on you guys. I think Fraser has a very good memory of games. In fact, what I'm going to do live on the podcast right now is send him a voice note, and we'll see if he comes back with an answer with a voice note that we can then play. So I'm just going to send you a voice note right now, Fraser, live on the pod. Fraser, I'm recording the podcast live right now. I'm with Tabs and Jamie. The question that we have, and I think you know the answer to, is when was the last away game Arsenal went behind but managed to then end up with 3 points? Do you know the answer? If so, please can you send me a voice note back so I can play it on the podcast? Thank you. Okay, anyway, as we wait for Fraser to get back to us, let's talk about the key moments in the game. So we already spoke about the first one, obviously, where Saka had that shot from an excellent Emi Martinez save. It was really good. And Tab, as you said as well, you thought it was 1-0. I got off
Yeah.
my sofa and started to almost celebrate. But even better than that save was Ollie Watkins' miss, and we've already discussed that. But I just can't believe a player of Ollie Watkins' caliber can miss something so simple. I mean, he almost scuffs the shot, but he hits it clean enough that it should go in the back of the net. But my point is, take a touch. Just take a touch and hit it.
Rare was diving the wrong way
Yeah.
as well. He didn't have to be accurate. If you look back, he just couldn't get his feet together right. He was just stepping over his feet. I know something there is just. I'm glad anyway. I don't want to analyze it too much. Who gives a shit? Have Villa gone past Watkins now? I don't know.
If they have, then Arsenal will, I'm sure, snap him up.
Yeah, we'll take him.
Yeah. And then the moment of the game for me, apart from the Ben White, I'm going to call it thunder fucking the ball into John McGinn. The Ben White, the David Raya, I should say, the David Raya save. I mean, so in my eyes, I see Onana. Like, Andre's not even my name, in it, as we said last week on the podcast. He hits the shot, it's deflected, and it hits the post. Right, fine. You don't, obviously, David Raya's down on the floor because he assumes it's going to be, a shot that he has to make a save. He kind of tries it and he falls to the floor. But what ensues next is David Raya is behind the goal line. David Raya's prone on the floor in some sort of weird kind of yoga position. I was going to say something else there, but I'll say it, not to be 18 plus, but in a weird yoga position there, doing something like the downward dog or whatever it was. And Ollie Watkins, he headers the ball and the ball leaves Ollie Watkins' head before Raya's even up again, and he still manages to make a save. And people will, non-Arsenal fans will say, "Oh, but Ollie Watkins hit it straight at him." No, I'm sorry, but Ollie Watkins hit the header instinctively, but David Raya made that save to even palm it away from, I think it was Morgan Rogers as well, I believe it was with him, or Leon, one of the Leon Bailey. Shout out to, whilst I mentioned Morgan Rogers, what a player he is becoming, by the way. He is electric. He is electric. But yeah, I can't get over that save. That will be the save of the season, regardless of whatever else happens this season. That will be the save of the season. Just how good he is at that. And look, we spoke about it, Tabs. Me and you spoke about this last week for the game against Wolves. He made a very good save where he was kind of wrong-footed and he had to adjust his feet very quickly. He also did it last year against, like I mentioned, Spurs. He's done it a lot, and that has cemented his place. If it could be any more cemented, as Arsenal's number one, and that shows us why Aaron Ramsdale's on his way out, and David Raya is one of the best keepers, or becoming one of the best keepers in world football at the moment. I can't think of anyone else who I genuinely. If you guys can, then I'll be
Well,
shocked.
you got the obvious. Allison is there as one of the number ones. No, I think our point was that everyone. Oh yeah, he's great with his feet and he's part of the back three and da 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 da. No, but now he's doing goalkeeping, saving stuff. And Ramsdale was famous for his save against Leicester and a few other heroic saves. The Liverpool game as well. But I think it's really good that Raya is now coming up with some top quality saves and so getting known for that as well, and it just builds that trust. And I think with the team, if one area is not firing, it's great that you got the other side doing the job. This is showing what a team effort winning is, because without it, this is their Trossard moment from last year when Martinez saved from Trossard. Yeah, Trossard had an open goal practically, but Martinez still had made a great save. Yeah, if Watkins had misheaded it, it was going in. So, but you don't take away from the save. And this is what you see them do all the time in that training. That drill: dive one way, quick, get up, dive the other way. This is what they do all the time, and this was in action. That there's the speed of recovery from the floor and getting up. It was, yeah, wow. It was just like, yeah, everyone was thinking. You even heard the Villa fans who were just ready to celebrate the goal and like, shit, it didn't go in. So yeah.
Jamie, why is there balloons on your screen on your camera? As Tab said,
Celebrating.
I did nothing to influence that. I was looking away and suddenly saw them appear. It was very strange.
Yeah.
I'm so confused at that. For context, as Tabs loves context, listeners, random balloons just appeared in Jamie's screen. If you do a love heart with your two hands, does it show a love heart? Because I think Whale has the
Is that it?
same.
Have I done something that's caused it to
Well,
happen?
I said the word celebrating, and then it suddenly happened. So I don't know, but no.
Yeah, well, maybe we're celebrating. Yeah, I don't know. So then after that, Saka tried to go past Martinez. I think he should have just hit that first time. If I'm being honest, the chance in the kind of midway through the first half, right before we scored. Um, to be honest with you, it was a tough one. He was very close to Martinez at the time, and I don't think he could have done much more than. I guess he tried to take it round him, but also tried to
Yeah,
take a touch. I just
yeah.
think if he hit it first time, it potentially could have went in, but
It might have been offside as well. I think had it gone in, it might have been
I
pulled back.
think so.
So, but yeah.
And then the moment of pure brilliance. So right after that miss by Saka, I think the ball had went out of play, and then Leo came on, and the rest is history. And that's all she wrote. With so Odegaard played it down to Saka. Ben White dummied it really, really, really well, and then Saka, the ball was almost going out, but he made sure it's not going to be a repeat of Newcastle away. and not give him anything to talk about. The ball, obviously, just before it goes out, crosses it in. It kind of bobbles around, and I mentioned before it could have been anyone in that position, but it just so happened to be Trossard, and just very good finish, good run, nice positioning from him. Um, but what's really pertinent that we need to mention is the stats that follow this. So 6 goals in the last 10 games, scored with his first touch of the match. And it's funny because he said on Sky Sports, he said, I normally like to get a feel of the ball first for a few touches before I try to score. But this was his first touch of the ball. But this is a crazy stat. He attempted more shots than any other player in the last 20 or so minutes he was on. Is that
So he,
factual?
he attempted more shots than any other player. Like in the 20 minutes that he was on, he took more shots than any other player. That I think it was because the shots were spread evenly, but we weren't shooting a great deal. I think Party might have been next. But with that goal, what was you say could have fallen to anyone? What was really clever? He was just hanging around at the back post, sort of like incognito. None of the Villa players were picking him up. And then when he saw Saka get into the byline, he just made a really clever run to get towards the penalty spot. And just the timing of the ball coming to him and getting there, if you watch that again, his movement was superb. And the Villa players did not have a clue he was there. He just sort of goes. To be honest, I didn't even know we'd made the substitute. So when he scored, I was he was that good. He ghosted on so beautifully. I didn't even know he was on the pitch when he scored.
Just shows you we spend so much time, Jamie and I, doing this, the prep for the podcast, and we look at the game and we rewind it and we watch it back 3 or 4 times. And you've heard it there, folks, for the first ever time. He's admitted it. It's taken him 33 episodes. He doesn't watch the full game because he's sometimes bored.
He
Wow.
spends the entire time in the stats, doesn't he? That's the thing. It's
Yeah.
just
Right, my
if he's
bloody
not got a
nose.
number involved, he doesn't really know what's going on.
Statman tabs. Anyway, Partey then scored obviously 10 minutes later to make it 2-0. It was great again from Saka to he was kind of in no man's land at one point, and he kind of managed to fix himself up, got the ball out of his feet nicely, and you could almost see, as Jamie mentioned, everyone asking for the ball, and Thomas Partey got it, and I was expecting it to be in row ZZ of the stand, just like every other time Thomas Partey has a shot, but it was a great finish, to be fair. And Emi Martinez, for everything he did right in the first half with Saka's save, he did everything wrong for that. That should have been a very easy save. The ball wasn't hit with any real pace. For a keeper, that should just be getting down to it and palming it away or even catching it. But, he did well, Thomas Partey. 100th goal against Villa in the Premier League. So these are more stats from Statman Tabs. 100th Arsenal goal against Villa in the Prem. Saka has scored 12 and assisted 5 in the last 19 Premier League games, which is good. So that means he's on for potentially another 20, if not 25 goal and assist season. And a goal from outside the box. When was the last? Now, that's a follow-up question to anyone because I can't remember. I think it might have been Martinelli against Man City at home last season. I think that potentially could have been the last time we scored a goal from outside the box. But yeah, two very well taken goals, and I could breathe a sigh of relief. I feel at 2-0 up this season with 10 minutes to go, I'm a lot more comfortable. But I think it's only because it's 2 games in. I don't
Yeah.
think there was anything else really of note apart from what I'm going to mention next. And I really like, Tabs, how you've put the full name of this player in. We also mentioned obviously Odegaard's kind of
Oh
miss.
man.
But interestingly enough, that is the third time in that side of the stadium against Villa, 3 consecutive games running, Odegaard has missed a sitter from that position, which is crazy. Is there a Ricardo Calafiori watching Odegaard from the stands as well, and other players getting put off by him?
I,
So
I just I just screamed, "Get your head over the fucking ball!" God, that's all it needed. Just it's just basic technique, Martin. Come on,
yeah, I'm pretty sure Martin Odegaard knows the technique of shooting, but I think he thought he was. I believe he thinks potentially a foul. He's going to get taken out here, and he kind of quickly rushed his shot, and so that's what I think. And Jamie agrees. So we'll move on very swiftly before Tabs tries to argue his way out of that one. And I love what you've done here, Tabs. William, Alian, Andre, Gabriel, Saliba. Now, his name actually has Gabriel inside it. That is amazing, isn't it?
According to threads, yes. Don't worry, these are, I'm not verifying my sources. I'm just like
Okay.
believing what I read. So there we go.
So we're using threads as a source and not yeah, it is. I've just checked Wikipedia as well. William Allian, Andre, Gabriel Saliba. Uh, the recovery run, he was at least 15 yards behind. Um, was it Jacob Ramsey?
Yeah, it was Ramsey. Yeah,
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I honestly looked at that and thought, this could be a penalty. And then I watched the replay and I thought, no, this is the tackle of the game. What a tackle that was. It was just timed to perfection. He gallops like a horse. He ran past two Arsenal players as well. Uh, it was just, and look, that's in the 83rd minute of the game. We need to remember that this guy is absolutely done in after 90 minutes of football, and he still manages that recovery run. Special mention also must go to Kai Havertz. I think around that same time he was making a tackle at left back as well. I don't know if you guys noticed that. So even though Kai Havertz got a really, really low score, on FotMob and Live Score and whatnot and Sofa Score, whatever these websites are, you don't realise the off the ball work he does as well, and that was really telling. So really overall, really impressed with the result. And look, if we're comparing game by game last season, we've beaten Wolves, we've now beaten Villa as well. One of those games we never managed to win. So we're on track for 114 points this season as it
still on.
stands, along with a couple other teams as well, right enough. But we're standing in good stead. It's given us good motivation, good confidence to go into a game against Brighton at home on Saturday, who look like a very good team. We'll release another podcast with a preview of that coming up later on this week. But Brighton look like a very good team. Danny Welbeck is a man reborn, and then we go into two crunch games afterwards. We talk about games coming thick and fast, but you can't get any thicker and faster than, well, you can't get any thicker than Tottenham Hotspur, but you can definitely get faster. And then obviously we have Man City in both away games, so it'll be really, really interesting to see how the next three games pan out and where we are in the league table. If we're still top or joint top in the league table after 5 games, then start to believe, Arsenal fans, it's going to be a long season ahead of us of high hopes. Tabs and I both guessed 2-1 for the predictions, so that was almost. If only Ollie Watkins could fucking hit the back
No,
of the net, right?
I'm taking the 2-0. That's okay.
Yeah. And let's just now finish off the podcast by talking about transfers and rumours. I feel like we're talking about Eddie Nketiah more than we're talking about any other player at the moment. But tonight, as we record this, it's Sunday night. David Ornstein has released a tweet. When Ornstein tweets, everyone listens, kind of thing, and it's not looking good. So it looks like Eddie Nketiah did not agree to join Nottingham Forest. I guess personal terms potentially got in the way, but apparently Arsenal and Forest agreed a fee of up to 30 million. But the good news is Crystal Palace are now looking into Eddie Nketiah. So I don't really know what to make of this, guys. What's your thoughts, Jamie? And why is he not leaving? What is the situation? Should he be? What does Eddie Nketiah need for a club to come in and him to say yes, I'll move?
I think the difficulty is that this kind of profile of player actually doesn't move that often, to be completely honest. You've got a guy who's 24, 25 years of age now. He's reasonably Premier League proven, but nothing. He hasn't had an exceptional Premier League career. He's just shown that he can be a Premier League number 9. He's still got some room to develop, and he's leaving a top club potentially, right? I don't think you see that many of those transfers across the Premier League. Generally, we're either out exploiting the price tag of a smaller club within Europe, or there's a very small selection of kind of decent top class British Premier League players moving around the Premier League itself. Look at the fact that Jarrad Branthwaite still hasn't moved. Generally, if Chelsea aren't involved and after a player in the Premier League, there's actually, they'll either go abroad and then potentially work their way back over, or they tend not to move around very often. Mark Gay is another one. That hasn't happened yet. And if you look at a lot of the Chelsea guys that left them, that were kind of a not dissimilar profile to Eddie Nketiah, so sort of under 21 stars who had decent Premier League careers. It was Fikayo Tomori and Tammy Abraham. They both went abroad. I really thought if Eddie was going to go anywhere, it was probably going to be abroad this summer, to the kind of team that was attractive enough to him to be able to go to. The likes of, again, what happened to those Chelsea guys, and we saw Marseille go after him. They were probably a good example. A team that could win something, because he is leaving Arsenal. He doesn't want to go to a team that's fighting relegation in the Premier League necessarily, but also at the same time a team that kind of needed him and for whom he would be a top end of the budget signing. It hasn't happened. I The time is running down. I think there will probably be a panicked loan move for him somewhere if no buyer can be found. It will more than likely be one without a fee. But maybe that's the best thing for him. Maybe he's at that stage now where if he goes out on loan at least somewhere in the Premier League, he can get to somewhere where he can go and score 10, 12 goals. And ultimately we get a fee for him back next summer. That's not a bad thing. The only question mark for us, I guess, is if we are genuinely anchoring every signing that we make to somebody going out the exit door for a kind of a similar fee, then that's obviously a bit of a concern because we still need more reinforcements. That's my my little worry bead there. For the player individually, I'm not surprised. It's a difficult situation for the clubs that would benefit from him to necessarily be able to put forward the packages that are going to actually attract him and satisfy Arsenal. So, yeah, it's not a great one. I kind of hate that what can quite often be quite a fun part of the summer where you've got some of the exits out of the way and you're looking forward to seeing who the last couple of signings are has devolved into waiting to see where Eddie Nketiah goes and people lamenting his very existence because, I'd be a little bit grateful for what he has done at times, Eddie. But
Yeah,
it's the situation we're in.
I think it's the wages that the noose around the neck. I think that's the tough part of this. The fee, you can stump up the money over whatever X amount of years, whatever. But it's just that, and it seems like that was the stumbling block here. We don't know the details. Yeah, I think you said that he's a Premiership player. He's just not top ready. He's mid-table, do a job, but he's not exciting. He's not shiny. Evan Nilsson goes to Bournemouth. I'm sure he'll be bang average. He'll be there for 2 years and then bugger off. But he's Brazilian and he comes from the Portuguese league, so it might be interesting. You sign Eddie Nketiah, no one's going to get excited. No one's there. But if you said, Eduardo Nketiah, whatever, from the French league, he's been knocking about for Rennes and scoring a load of goals. Hey, we'll get him in for 30 million. Oh, he'll be really exciting. And then it's the same bog standard. So it's, and going abroad is hard. It's incredible how few people are on 100 grand per week in Europe. It's hardly any. So he has to want to go there and reduce the wages. So yeah, and you're right. It's unless it's the top clubs, it's very few. And even in the Premiership, the clubs below the top six, only one or two players are on 100k per week. So but Eddie needs to go and play. I think we said last week, it's a short career. You're a footballer. Go and play football. Don't sit on the bench. You're not wanted, and not because you're not very good. You're just not good enough. You can do a job somewhere else. Go and play football. Take 80 grand. It sounds stupid. Drop 20 grand. Okay, would you take a 20% pay cut to move? But simplistically, so we don't know the ins and outs. But yeah, he needs to go play. He needs to go somewhere, get regular football, and just be a footballer, not a bench warmer.
So from that, Tabs, I got that we have to put a moustache on Eddie Nketiah and a beret and make it out that he was at PSG last season.
Yeah,
Edward
exactly.
Nketiah or whatever we call it, Eduard Nketiah, and then we'll get the money for him.
Yeah.
Fabrizio Romano has confirmed the medical has been done. The documents have all been signed, so it's just a matter of time before Arsenal announce him. Bank holiday Monday tomorrow, obviously, and there might be a lot of sore heads in London after Carnival this weekend is taking place, but you never know. Arsenal might announce it tomorrow out of the blue, but that'll be a great signing once it's over the line. I think he will be just, yeah.
It's just the media. It's the social media team that are taking the time. It's done. He's here.
Yeah, I'm looking really forward to seeing him in the team. And then in terms of kind of other ins and outs, can we be relying on Gabriel Jesus after his injury woes? And do we need another forward? I would say yes. However, I don't think there's enough time in this window. I think this might be something we look at next season potentially. And try to move Gabriel Jesus on. I don't see us doing much business in January either, to be honest. I think Arteta's that type of manager who likes the squad that he has and wants to stick with them unless, touch wood, there's a serious injury. I don't know if anyone will become available. Although I must say that Victor Gyökeres has, and that is how you pronounce it, by the way. I did a few YouTube clips beforehand. Victor Gyökeres has
You're doing a Sean Connery impression.
he has scored a lot of goals. I think he scored 7 and had 3 assists so far in this season. So, teams will start looking at players like that to come in, but I just worry that he will be another Rasmus Højlund or Anthony or someone like that, who comes in and can't handle the Premier League. It's a very, very physical league compared to what these guys play in now. So yeah, it's tricky and tough. I was meant to say, but I tried to say both words together.
I'm just hoping. The thing that gets me, we can see it, and I'm sure Edu and Arteta and everyone can see it. So I'm sure they're doing something behind the scenes. It's starting to get leaving a bit late, and if something does come in, just because we don't know about it doesn't mean stuff isn't happening. Because there's shit happening all the time that we don't know about. So I still hold out some hope there. But the thing that gets me, they talk about it. If they're really said we have got a chance here, and I know we say it all the time. I don't remember a season in the last 10 years. Oh, we're just 1 or 2 players away. But I think with this year, we just that we are that close. And if we go in, it'd be remiss with Jesus's injury record. It's not to say we haven't got very good players, and we are a brilliant team. Just that one extra piece of even reliable squad player. It doesn't even have to be X factor guy. Just someone that is on a level with our players that we can rotate in and out and all the rest of it. Just to bring that in. Okay, it's not my job to say who. That's Edu gets the big bucks for that. But it'd be seem remiss if we went into the season not with that, given where we are and the step we need to take. But
Arteta's commented on this, though, hasn't he? Said he hasn't got the number of bodies that he wants to have. It was in his pre-match conference, I think it was, against Villa.
Yeah.
So they know it. It's there. It is worrying. I mean, you never know with January. The one thing I will say is, whilst I agree, Mikel's probably the kind of guy who wants to have all his plans set in place a long time in advance. The signings we have made in January, and we have made them, have been very impressive, right? We got Jorginho in, and he's ended up becoming far more than we thought he was going to be, when we thought he was just going to be a body in a shirt for a bit. We had Trossard, the star of the show for today, well, aside from David Raya, was a January signing and was really transformative at that time and gave us real pep in our step for a few weeks when we were kind of starting to worry about injuries in that season as well. I do worry. I don't think we have too many injury-prone players is the plus side. The availability of most of these guys is really high. 2 of the guys who had lower amounts of availability have already gone out the door in Vieira and in Smith Rowe. And ultimately, there's only really Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus hanging around that do have lower levels of availability, and I kind of expect this might be the last season at Arsenal for both of them on the quiet. But yeah, I'm just worried about pure bodies, and especially when we think that there are 8 Champions League group games this season. That really worries me. But I think that pressure's there for a lot of other teams, and I don't actually think City have done what they brought in Ilkay Gundogan. They haven't really strengthened that much. Alvarez has gone, which really surprising move. I don't see that Villa have done that much. If they are somehow part of the title contenders, I think by dint of being top 4, maybe they are. Liverpool haven't really helped out the situation. I think everybody's in a bit of a weird position in that top 4 at the moment, actually, where getting quality players that are genuinely going to augment this squad requires decent investment. And ultimately trying to get that and then also buff out the squad to have enough numbers is really, really tough. And I imagine it's just the identification of those targets and trying to get the deals done is the sticking point.
But it's not the right time to go cheap. I'm not saying go cheap on the squad. We are just so close. Now's not the time to rein it in, if you see what I mean. I don't know. I just feel But again, easier said than done. Not my money. Blah blah blah. Yeah. What will
And
be?
there's the compliance aspects as well, right? It's, though we know that is a real
Yeah.
thing for a lot of clubs at the moment as they try and work out exactly what that means to them, because there is a renewed
Yeah.
focus on compliance. We've seen points deductions. We're probably not as happy to sail as close to the wind as we were a few years back. I think we did roll really close to the wind for a couple of seasons. Is what a lot of the finance guys in football tend to be saying, and we were very close to being investigated. So I can understand why maybe we're not being as aggressive as we could be. But also, just how much money does it take to get some of these guys in? If you want a striker that's going to compete with Kai Havertz for that number 9 spot right now, I think you're talking about a 60 to 100 million pound striker.
Yeah.
That is a significant investment in any given season.
I'm thinking more wide forward. If we get someone, I think wide forward. I don't think we'll be getting a forward. I think with Trossard, Havertz, Jesus, I think it's a wide forward to augment actually the left hand side, the Martinelli side, the more than the right hand side. But somebody who can play both sides. I think Neto would have been an option, but we weren't going to trust. We can't afford to trust his hamstrings. Eze's more inside than an out and out winger. Yeah, you're right. Who is that player? Yeah, don't know. It's a difficult one. We got anyway. Put it like this time next week we can forget about it and move on, and we'll be lamenting the fact that Reece Nelson will be starting against Brighton. But there we go.
And on that note, we will love you and leave you all. I just want to say that we will release the next episode on either Thursday night or Friday morning after the Champions League draw has been made.
Yep.
Rumour has it the Champions League draw is going to be 4 hours in length because they have to draw 1,000 balls because of the new format. Now, that scares me because the preamble of the Champions League draws are around 4 hours. So this could be a full day thing that you might have to take off time from work. So just be prepared for that. I do, however, I jest. I think they're using
Are we
AI.
not going to do a live cast of the Champions League draw?
Definitely not.
do a watch. Yeah, there you go, Moz. How do you fancy doing a Champions League draw watch along?
I can't think of anything worse than spending 4 hours with you, Tabs, talking about Slavia Prague against Ludogorets Razgrad in the Europa Conference League group stage or whatever it is that they'll no doubt do first. But no, they are going to use AI and software to speed it up. I think that's what their plan is. So we will be back on Friday probably for the preview of Brighton, a very speedy preview, and then again the following week for the Brighton post-cast podcast. Thank you so much to Jamie and Tabs for coming on so late at night. The update on Fraser, the answer to the question is unfortunately he has no answer at all. He didn't read the message. I know why, but I'm not going to call him out for it, Fraser. I know you're a busy man tonight, so I'll leave it there. Good night, everyone. God bless, and we'll see you all on the next one.
Enjoy your bank holiday. Ciao, ciao.
Cheers, guys.